So, you're planning your first trip to the mountains. A very exciting time in your life. As a skater who lives in a pretty flat area of the world, I try to get out to the mountains at least like once a year or so. I've done it probably like 8 to 10 times at this point, and a lot of times I've organized the trip myself.
I'm the captain.
I've learned a fair amount about what to do and what not to do, so here it is. Now, the first thing that needs to come to mind when it comes to planning a trip to the mountains is figuring out what the goal is. So you're either going there just to skate mountains, just to have fun, that's about it, or you're there to film. It's one or the other. You don't want to mix and match and do like, kind of filming, but like, just like I'll film a run here and there. It's much better to just be like, all right, we're filming or we're not. If you want to get clips on your phone or whatever, yeah, that's fine. But like if you want to make an actual like video with video parts, full-fledged, full-length video, that's a different goal in mind. So make sure you know which one it is and make sure everybody else in your group knows which one it is as well. All right, next up is the actual location. Obviously, you're going to go to the mountains. I've been to the Appalachian Mountains a bunch of times, or Appalachian Mountains if you live out there. And one of the reasons it's such a good area to go to skate is not just the mountains themselves, but there's a lot of other factors as well. If it's your first time going somewhere in the mountains, you want to go to a place where other people have skated before. Yes, it's fun to be a pioneer of a new location, new roads, new hills, new spots, new mountains, whatever. But if it's your first time out there, just go to a place where people have skated before, because you don't know like what the pavement is going to be like. Even if you look at the roads on Google Maps, you don't know what the locals are like. You don't know how people will be reacting to you as a skater. And even if they are generally negative, you want to actually know like what they're going to be like when you get there so that you are prepared for that. On top of that, it's a lot better if you actually have a local who lives in that area who can show you spots. They're going to be a pretty insane level of help, from figuring out actually where the spots are to knowing like if it rains one day, which spot is going to be dry fastest, which roads are going to be ones that you can just hit one time and then leave, or which runs can you spend 6 hours at sitting on the side of the hill. They're also good sources of things like food, or where you can stay, or if somebody gets hurt, where should you go for that? Like these are all like pretty important things that maybe you don't initially consider, but really having a local is pretty helpful, and I can't imagine going to a new place without having some guidance. Now, having a tried and true location, you should also know some of the spots in the area. I think about like if you have like 5-ish spots, depending on how long you're going to be in that area, is kind of like a minimum. You obviously want to have some variety, but you also might get kicked out of places too, and you want to have other hills to skate. You probably also want to know, like I said, if it gets wet, which spot is going to be dry fastest. You got to have a variety of places, and maybe some of them have tree coverage and it just like never dries out, and some of them are just in wide open areas where they'll dry out in just a couple hours. The last thing as far as where you're going to go is where you're going to stay at night. So there's really 3 options here, at least in the US. You can pretty much either camp, you can get an Airbnb or like a Vrbo, or I don't know what they call them.
If you know, you Vrbo.
Or you can stay in a hotel. And I've camped a fair number of times. I've done Airbnbs a lot of times, and I've done hotels just like once, I think, one time. Camping is obviously the cheapest option. You can car camp, you can find a legitimate camping spot, you can find some sketchier camping spots. But there are 2 things you probably got to consider. On top of being really cheap, it also is probably the least comfortable, probably going to get the worst sleep. So if you're on the older side like me, then, it's something to consider that, you don't want to get bad sleep while you're skating. I mean, you're going to be tired, so you're going to sleep pretty good no matter what. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to have a shower. It doesn't hurt to have running water. Those things are all really nice on top of having good beds. Also, if it does rain on the trip, it kind of sucks. Like being camping, I mean, the big time camping aficionados, you're like, I don't care if it rains, it's not a big deal. I'm telling you, it sucks when it rains. It's a huge bummer. Airbnbs are the way that I've gone most of the time. Big time party vibes. You get a house to yourself, and by the way, that's the only really way you should do it. Don't show up on the skate trip with a bunch of skaters and be like in somebody's like second bedroom or something in their house or whatever. Just get a standalone place even better if it's on its own piece of property, separate from somebody else's. Like if the owner also lives on the property in another house, I wouldn't recommend it. Airbnbs also have nice things like grills. A lot of places that are set up for Airbnbs have things like hot tubs. So it's like big time party vibes. It's pretty nice. I like the Airbnb if you can get it organized, which we'll talk about later. Hotels are kind of like a weird one, honestly. You do get some of the things that an Airbnb would have, like the water and the stay and stuff, but you're like in another person's place. I don't know. They can be a lot cheaper actually if you can find a good deal. Airbnbs tend to be probably the most expensive option nowadays, aside from some locations of hotels. But hotels are all right too. Next is a really important one, is who's coming on the trip with you. This is like so important, from the size to the actual people to how the people skate. So let's talk about the people. So first off, you really do want to know who is coming with as much as possible. Having randoms that you've never met before is a risk. I've had it where I've had somebody on a trip who I'd never met before that turned out to be awesome. And loved them, having them on the skate trip, and they were super good vibe. They were really down to earth, whatever. And I've also had people that were not great, that I regretted opening up the invitation to whoever. So if you have skated hopefully with that person for a prolonged period of time, you know this person pretty well, that's a really big advantage. Want to know who they are. Not only that, but you want to have a mix of people that skate similarly. You don't want to have 5 people on the trip and 4 of them do a bunch of stand-up slides at slow to medium speeds, and then there's one person who just is full hands down, like race style down the mountain, because that person's going to be bummed because they're not going to have anybody to really take runs with. Once everybody gets fairly comfortable on the mountain runs, they're going to want to start taking runs together, and that person is going to be kind of bummed to be really alone on the hill. So you do want to have a mix of different types of skaters, or like all the same type, because it's just more fun. The last thing about who to bring is about bringing non-skaters on the trip, whether it's a friend, somebody who likes taking photos but doesn't skate, girlfriend, spouse, whatever. Kind of a big risk. This person needs to know what they're getting themselves into, first and foremost. Whoever the person is that's bringing this person with, the skater who's bringing them, needs to be really upfront and clear about what this trip is. And what it is that person sitting on the side of a mountain road for hours and hours and hours at a time alone, or 90% of the time alone. If that person's okay with that, cool. I've seen people that are really super chill, probably more chill than I would be. I wouldn't want to sit on a hill for 4 hours by myself, just sitting there. But I've also seen people who seem to be completely fine with it. You just need that person to know what they're getting into. If they thought they were going to be going out hiking, if they thought they were going to go shopping or go to restaurants in the area or whatever, that's not what this is. And they need to know that that's not what this is. Or else they're going to be bummed and they're going to put a damper on the entire group's trip. So how many people is appropriate to bring on a trip? I think that you could bring as few as 1 car, or as much. I would max it out at 3 cars. 3 cars is roughly 10 to 12 people in a car is what I'm saying. And having, I guess if you have like a van or something like that, that's different. But really having 12 is a lot. Okay, so we'll talk about the pros and cons of the different sizes. We're going to break it down by 1 car, 2 car, 3 car. So 1 car is crazy efficient. Everybody is going to be moving from spot to spot really, really fast. Switching wheels isn't going to be a problem. Eating is going to be fast. Everything just goes by really quickly. So if you were just trying to clock as many runs during the day as possible, small car, 1 car, 3 or 4 people, really efficient. Honestly, 3 people is probably getting to the point where it's too small. 4 people is pretty nice though. I've been on a 4-car trip or a 4-person trip before. It's pretty sick. You skate a lot. When it comes to a small group though, it's so important who the people are and that they all get along, that they're all similar vibe to each other. You know, like some people are down to just be kind of taking things slower. Some people are just trying to like get run after run. I mean, like me personally, I'm trying to get runs in. Like I'm not trying to like hang out. I'm not trying to sit around in the morning. I'm trying to like wake up when the daylight comes in. You know, a reasonable time, but still, like, I'm trying to get runs. I'm there to skate. And if somebody else is on the trip that isn't down for that and they want to, you know, sleep in really late, cook a lot of their food or something, or they want to go to a sit-down restaurant, I'm not going to have a good time or as good of a time because we're just not on the same page, that person and I. A 2-car is that medium spot. You know, you're looking at like 6 to 8-ish people. This is always like a totally feasible size. You can still get a lot of skating in with, you know, 6 to 8 people. It's also a really good size if you are trying to film and you want to film on that skate trip. It's good for safety reasons. You can have a follow car, but you can also have a car that either rides in front of the follow car or just blocks the bottom of a road off altogether if a run just kind of like comes up into like a dead end, which a lot of runs do out in the mountains. Having 2 cars is good for filming for sure. You can also then have like a car posted up on a corner where somebody can get like still shots or something like that from the side. So 2 cars is still a great size and the best size for filming. Now 3 cars is where you do notice that the group significantly will be slowing down. You might even get groups that split up every once in a while when it comes to this because some people might want to go, you know, to some like bathroom, or they want to eat because somebody's starving. Dollar menu millionaire. Or they want to, 2 of the cars want to go skate this one more hill and the other group is tired and they just want to go back to the Airbnb, whatever. Oh, hold on. I want everything on the dollar menu. You want everything on the dollar menu. But 3 cars is going to move a lot slower. Way more party vibes, though. Bigger the group, the bigger of a party it will be at the lodging of choice, camping, Airbnb, whatever. And it also doesn't really matter as much who the people are on the trip because you're going to be able to find enough people that you like to talk to and want to hang out with and get along with for weekends at a time, that it's not as big of a deal. But yeah, the group's going to move a lot slower though, so you just got to be okay with that. Now, this next little bit's just going to be about filming. So if you're not filming, this is just a disregarded section. If you're filming, you got to obviously have somebody who has some sort of decent like camera setup, or at least a designated camera, whether that's as simple as just like somebody's phone, could be, it's possible, or somebody has like a DSLR camera, whatever. There should be somebody with a filming setup, obviously. The car is pretty important at this point. You can either go the route of having like a personal car, somebody's own car, or you can do the rental route. If you're doing a personal car, it should be a car that is actually probably pretty good at follow filming. I have a video about follow filming. You can watch that one to see what kind of car it is. Make sure the car is pretty reliable. It's going to be driven hard too, and you don't want to be stuck in the middle of nowhere in a mountain with a car that, I don't know, the brakes aren't doing well, or it's got check engine lights going on and off. If you're doing a rental, buy the rental insurance and have a good time. The only thing with getting a rental is it will take time to go and get the rental car, so just keep in mind that if you're only on this trip for like 2 or 3 days, you probably don't want to be wasting time getting the rental car, but I also understand if you don't want the liability of possibly damaging your own car while follow filming, so pros and cons. This is kind of going back to the original thing of a goal, but filming completely changes the vibe of a trip. If one person is there on the trip to film and they have like this vision in their head of like the clips they want to get, how they want to skate this certain corner on this run, and then another person is there just to like chill and have a good time, those two people are really on totally different wavelengths. That person, if they don't get their run in and they don't get that filmed run, they will be actually upset because how they're envisioning and how they're expecting the trip to go is not the way it's going to go. And vice versa for the other person. If the other person's trying to chill and this other person is like really serious and getting really hyped up and in their head at the top of the run trying to get this clip, those people are, it's like a weird vibe. So make sure that everybody is either we're filming or we're just chilling, okay? It's one or the other. It's pretty hard to get like a good, fun trip vibe in where some people are filming and some people are not. So just trying to get everybody on the same page. Food, eating. So you got 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So as far as breakfast goes, you can totally just like eat on the road with, things you would get at like a grocery store if you just want to have like a bunch of bananas and bread and peanut butter or whatever. It's cheap, it's fast. You can also get eggs and whatever and cook at whatever your lodging is for the trip. Either one is fine. I've seen it done either way. Lunch, you pretty much always want to eat on the road. You don't want to ever like have to travel back to your lodging for each meal. You really only want to do breakfast possibly and dinner at where you're going to be staying. In the middle of the day, you just want to be like hitting spots. That's all you should be really doing, unless everybody is really chilling and honestly not really like wanting to skate a lot. I don't know. That's just not me. I can't imagine it. But lunch can be packed if everybody is responsible enough to pack lunch or to pack things to eat. You can also stop at fast food, just running the risk of people's stomachs being upset on the trip. Sketchy. Some gas stations legitimately have good food, some do not. So you can, if you know a local in the area who knows the food in the area, another reason why you'd want to have a local with you, they know the food. I would not sit down and eat at a restaurant. It's just going to soak up a lot of time in the day, and it's just a bummer when you're really there on the trip to skate. Dinner is kind of a mix. You can definitely just like go out to eat. You can do that. It's going to cost more. The other option, and the option that I prefer, is hitting a grocery store on the first day of the trip. Not any other days of the trip. You just buy all the food you need on the first day once you're actually there. You definitely could pack a cooler into your car and travel all the way down, but it's just like kind of a big hassle, to be honest with you. And a cooler takes up a lot of space in a car that is valuable space. So usually I will find a grocery store there, plan to hit it the first day, and then just keep all the food at the Airbnb, which is usually where I end up going. If you're camping, probably just do a cooler because you're going to need to use a cooler anyways. Just keep in mind animals in your camping area will definitely find the food if it's not especially a legit camping spot. So keep that in mind. As far as what to cook, keep it super simple. You don't want to be getting a bunch of ingredients. I know some of y'all are like, oh, can't wait to make my famous jambalaya, whatever. I've been there, done that. It's not the move. You end up with all these leftover extra ingredients and you just end up throwing them out because you're not going to travel back with them. So it's just a waste of money, waste of food. Keep it simple. Get like spaghetti or get like burgers or dogs or brats. Super chill, low ingredient amounts. Basically just enough food for exactly the trip. Make sure it's obviously a lot of food because, it's a lot of people. So you don't want to skimp out on, not buying enough spaghetti for the group. Everybody's going to be hungry. And be ready to cook. I basically end up cooking most of the time on these trips. And that's fine with me. I don't mind it. Just make sure that somebody is down to cook. All right, as far as what do you bring on this trip? Let's talk about the skate gear itself. So you should not bring more than 2 setups. I've seen people bring 3-4 boards on a trip. Most of the time, even if you bring 2 boards, 90% of the time, you're going to skate one specific board. You're going to figure out what that board is very early on. It's usually the board you skate the most at home anyways. It's the one you're most comfortable on. That's what you're going to end up skating most of the time. Don't bring more than 2 boards. It's just a bunch of more space in the car. Wheels totally depends on the types of wheels you're skating. If you're skating Powells, then, they last a long time. You could probably get away. I remember one of my friends just skated 2 sets of yellow K-Rimes for a whole trip in Tennessee for 3 days, and I don't even think he got that far into the second set. So you could go with as few as 2 sets, probably. I would probably go a minimum of 3, and 5 is probably the max. Obviously, if there's some total theiners, then you probably want to have 4 or 5 sets. I really don't think there's any need to go beyond that for more than 3 or 4 days of skating. I've seen people show up with 10 sets of wheels and you're not going to touch them. Come on, you ain't that good. Come on now. Extra hardware, gotta have bolts, gotta have extra nuts, gotta have that stuff because you never know when you're going to lose something changing wheels and be super flustered. Definitely bring some extras in a little bag or a little case or something. Glue. any super intense type of glue. I use like the blue Loctite glue. I'll put it right here. And I always have that on hand, super glue. You never know when you're going to need it, when, Velcro comes off of a puck, or a torque block edge is coming up, or you have like a insert somewhere that's coming out, or I don't know, whatever. Super glue is super important to have. It's a huge bummer when things are falling off. Extra pucks. If you're used to skating like super chill roads like I do, where I live, I skate a lot of hands up. I don't really put my hands down, and I'm not used to going through pucks very quickly. But when you're out in the mountains, you're going to put your hands down way more than you ever would anywhere else, and you're going to go through pucks so much faster than you would ever expect. Having at least one extra set of pucks, crucial. Huge bummer when you're basically gloveless because you don't have enough pucks. Helmets. Just bring one. Don't bring two different helmets. Don't bring a full face and a half shell. Just bring one. If you want the full face, cool. Just bring the full face, or just bring the half shell. No need to have two helmets. And last thing about your setup and skate gear, don't change your setup for the trip. I've seen people like throw harder bushings in to skate the mountain roads because they're going to be skating a little bit fast. Don't do that. Just skate what you've been skating at home, what is predictable, what is normal for you, because even though you're like, oh, I want a little more stability, having more predictability and knowing what your board is going to feel like that you've been skating for months is way more important. It's going to be way better safety-wise for you. Not a good idea to be like swapping bushings and stuff like that just for a trip. Outside of like skate gear and stuff like that, the rest of the stuff that you end up bringing on a trip totally depends on like where you're staying. Obviously, if you're camping, what you're bringing is totally different than if you're at an Airbnb. All right, last thing is, how do you actually set up this trip with everybody? How do you communicate this trip? And this is like the thing that I think I've learned the most about as the person who typically is organizing most of the trips, which I'm happy to do. I like doing it. So first off, the most important thing is knowing what your role as the person who's organizing the trip is. And being like a professional tour guide is kind of the best way to do this. Now, when it comes to this, what I mean by that is that you just like speak facts to people and just explain exactly what's going to happen and be really blunt about it. It might seem a little cold and a little inhuman when you first do it because like these are all your friends that you talk really casually with. You're not like a business or a company, but that's kind of how you have to talk to them in this way so that everybody is completely understanding what is happening in this trip. Everybody's understanding payment. Everybody's understanding due dates. This stuff needs to be really cut and dry for everybody, and it makes everybody actually happier. You might at first feel like it's killing a vibe or whatever, but everybody having predictability and cohesiveness is way more good for the vibe than just being like chill guy number one. Timeline-wise, if you are getting a reservation of some sort at, an Airbnb or whatever, honestly, if you want to have like a good place and you don't want to be spending a ton of money, you should be trying to plan this out at least 4 to 6 months before the actual trip, especially if you're getting an Airbnb, which is what most of what I'm going to say is going to pertain to because that's like what I normally do because I'm a bougie little guy. So we're going to break this down by like what you say to your group when. So the first thing is going to be the first time you contact them. You're going to explain where you're going, when you're going there, what date there is, or you could give them like 2 dates and they could give you feedback on which date is better. You're going to give them the approximate cost of the trip, like guessing how much it's going to be depending on like what you're seeing as far as Airbnbs and stuff. Also, if food is going to be included in the cost, which I usually do include the dinner cost because I like going to grocery stores, so I just include that in the overall cost. And lastly, you should be saying to them, let me know if you're not interested in going. And this doesn't mean like they're not interested in skating. They probably are. But like, are they busy that time of the year? Do they have the money at this point right now to be spending, $100, $200 on a trip? One thing about collecting money for groceries, I do this up front for like cost of dinner because it's a huge pain to collect money while the trip is actually happening. And it's kind of awkward, and it is kind of a weird vibe thing to be trying to collect money from people while the trip is happening. It's better to just collect up any money that's going to be like shared amongst the group, collect that up front. All right, the second time that you contact everybody, you are deciding on what exactly the lodging is. You're telling them, okay, we're going to this Airbnb. The cost is this. And you're also telling them where and when the money can be collected. So I always use Venmo. You could use Zelle. You could do whatever. But I always say you need to Venmo me on this date. And this just lets everybody know like when they should have money ready to go. The third contact is actually the collection day of the money. I have never had a group collect all of the money on the day of the due date. I don't even know if I've ever had a group giving me all of their money the week that I tell them it's due. But to push them along, usually what I say is the first people to give me money, they get to claim their bed first. So a little initiative. And as soon as all of the money is collected or enough money is collected for the Airbnb, purchase it. Boom, it's done. Because it's kind of a bummer when the Airbnb was there and then a day later you haven't collected the money and it's gone and you have to kind of reset up like the purchase plan for everybody. And for the love of God, do not reserve the place when there's, we're waiting on one person or waiting on two people. You're like, oh, it's only $80. It's only $100. I'm just going to reserve it now. Don't do that. Because that person is going to have no reason then to really give you the money outside of just being like a good person and paying what they're owed. They're still going to get to go on the trip. And that's like what's most important. So for your sake, don't reserve it until all the money has been collected. It's on that person to get you the money. It's not your fault that they're not paying you. And I'm not even like downing on that person who's not paying. I don't know what their situation is, but just don't put yourself in a weird place where you have to be like a tax collector later on and have to like grill that person for the money that they owe you.
Bones are the skeleton's money.
That's a worse position to put yourself in. Finally, the last contact with the group is going to be a lot lighter stuff. There's no money involved. It's just figuring out like whose cars are going to drive, who's in what cars. If we're like filming, what are your ideas? Like, does somebody want to like lay claim to a certain run? Do they want to get like a raw run on this road? And, you don't want to have like a video that's like everybody getting film on the same road. So, laying claim to roads. And also things like having an itinerary. I've done it both ways where you just kind of like leave it up in the air as far as what's going to happen on what day. And then I've also laid it out where it's like super regimented, where we're going, when we're getting lunch here. And there's pros and cons to this. It's definitely like an interesting like vibe change having a super specific itinerary versus not. That's kind of really up to you and your group and how you guys want to do things. If you're doing a film trip, I suggest doing an itinerary so everybody is getting enough time to get clips where they want to. But if you're just chilling and you're just having a low-key trip, then yeah, you can do it either way. So hopefully you learned something about planning your first mountain trip. It's so fun to go to the mountains the first time. It's also kind of scary. So it's totally fine to just chill and not be taking every run to the maximum. You probably shouldn't be. Just do a bunch of pendies, slow down, manage yourself down the road. It can also be a little intimidating to be the one organizing the trip. I understand. It's kind of wonky and it's kind of weird vibe-wise to like be the leader of the group. But it's important and everybody will appreciate it in the long run, having some guidance and understanding and predictability about how everything's going to go. So good luck.